Casey, you should have got delivered servo with 3 nuts on each screw. Those 2 top screws or nuts are going to be spacers. The bottom nuts are going to be to secure it to the back plate. I'm going to use this empty one just for ease of use. To remove your gimbal, you'll see there's a screw in there, and you're going to remove that screw right in here and just lift this whole unit up, and it will kind of just hang by the wires. What you'll do is you'll cut these zip ties there and there, and you'll see the servo wire that's running from the bottom of the servo. It's going to be the orange, red, and brown, and it's going to be connected. You're going to see that plugs in underneath into the receiver port. What you're going to do is unplug that. When you cut the zip ties, it's braided. I'd suggest not unbraiding it, just cutting it loose up here and cutting it close down here, and then running the new wire and zip tying it to this bundle, and then plugging it in into the same exact port. Okay, I forgot to mention, if you look here, there's some glue. You want to make sure you get some pliers up behind that and pop these wires off before you start yanking on it. What that does is that actually holds the camera button or a plug-in so it doesn't back out while you guys are using these things. So make sure you do that and you're not yanking on that, because that is attached to the servo that we're going to be replacing. So once you get those wires all cut free, you're going to pull the screw here and here out, and then you're going to pull this screw on the servo horn out. The servo horn should just fall out, or you might have to poke it from the backside to get it out. You can go ahead and trash that servo horn. We're not going to use that servo horn or that screw. We're actually not going to use those mount screws either. So you can trash all those or hold on to them. It's up to you. So now that you know how to remove the servo, we'll remove the servo and we'll start with a blank plate with the wiring and all that stuff. So from there, the servo will be removed. So we'll come over here. So you'll have the servo removed. You're going to take the servo, you're going to remove these screws, just the lower screws you're going to remove, and you're going to angle, and the horn you're going to remove as well. That's going to take a Allen wrench. You're going to remove all of that, and then we're going to actually place it into that. So let me do that and I'll come back. Okay, so we got it mounted. If you look, slides through with the top 2 screws as a spacer. Screw goes through. You're going to have to thread these screws in a little each time, because if you do one side at one time, it actually snaps that plastic piece off. So you want to just do a little bit, because the screws actually thread into that plastic a little bit. Then we'll put the nut on to tighten it up, and I'm actually going to send this to you in this form so you can reverse it. These plates are super cheap, so you'll be able to see exactly how it's mounted. You're going to line up the plastic plate here along with the servo end there. Those spacers are very important for this. So next, we're actually going to take this and we're going to mount it onto here. So first things first, we're going to take the servo horn here, and it just slides into there. Once it slides into there, you're going to put your finger on the end of it. You're going to slide this on, making sure that this piece, this little piece here, goes over this piece. It acts as a hinge there. And then you're going to slide this onto the servo horn. Now, before you slide this onto the servo horn, you need to plug this wire into the port you unplugged the original one from, and you need to turn the car on. The reason you need to do that is the servo is going to be centered, so it's going to move before you lock it into place. And then you're going to put your stick all the way back on your radio, or however you want to center it, and then you're going to angle this as far back as it can go here, and then you'll slip it into the socket along on that hinge side. Then you can push the stick forward, it will hinge forward, and you'll be able to test it. But you don't want to put all this together, then turn the car on, because this servo is going to find center, and if it's way off, it's going to go back, and it could hurt the servo if it goes too far back. So you want to make sure you center that. When you're done with that, you want to make sure your wires are placed, are never unplugged from the camera, and then you can run it right over the same lump on the new servo here, and just put a dab of super glue, crazy glue, any kind of glue will hold it. What I suggest is make sure you push this towards the socket before you glue that. So just make sure there's pressure on that so it doesn't unplug. Then run your new wire, clean it up, and then zip tie it on. So it should already be plugged in, because you're going to center the servo before you actually mount it onto that piece. And then you can just use pressure to hold that piece in with the screw there. I have some guys that are putting a dab of super glue on it. You don't really need it, because the servo, if you ever need to change it or anything, you're probably going to end up changing the servo horns also. If you have any more questions, feel free to call me. Thanks.